And welcome to 13 and 1. I'm your host, Francis Veltri, and we have an amazing guest today for 13 and 1. You know, 13 and 1, the talk show that's like a game show, but with no prizes. Sorry, Ron, there are no prizes here. And let's introduce our guest, by the way. Ron, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Ron Zaney. I'm recently retired teacher after 40 years. Teaching wise, I taught physical education, health, and English, comedy writing, part of that time. Um, Started college at Rose-Hulman as an engineer student. Found out I didn't really like that. Went
Too
over
much
to Indiana
math.
State. What's
Too much
that?
math. Too much math.
Not really, just not that interested in the whole engineering thing, but transferred over to Indiana State as an accounting major, found out, and not that interested in that. I've seen numbers are a problem, but they weren't, the grades were okay. And went into education, physical education with an English minor. Always been physical my entire life, played multiple sports in high school and college, continued playing sports and competing up until the age of 55 when my body told me it was time to quit.
Oh, okay. My buddy told me that
And
many more years earlier than that. So,
And around that time, I got into comedy. I took a stand-up class at IU Northwest.
okay.
That led me to doing some stand-up. Also led me to Second City and starting to do improv. And I've been doing improv for about 10 years now. Stand-up was strong at first and kind of sporadic right now.
Mhm.
Not much at all lately. And then I ran into someone Nelson.
Right.
I ran into him at Comedy Sports, which is unique because he lives about 10 minutes away from me and I never knew him.
Yeah.
And through that, it's like, had to go all the way to Chicago to meet a guy who lives 10 minutes away from me. And then following that is met you through Nelson and
Right.
other groups. And
Because you're in a traditional improv group. I mean, again, this is all weird. We're still going through the COVID time, so it's all weird with improv. I mean, right now, and I've talked about this in other episodes. Right now, Second City's for sale. Other improv groups are either for sale or closed and for sale. That's always sell high, and so yeah, it's just been devastating. I mean, devastating for the live performance industry in general, but specifically, I think the most is with improv because it is so reliant on audience. And with the COVID times that we're in, it's just impossible to do. You can't do training, you can't do anything, and it's just a killer for those type. And there's such a niche concept. I mean, I don't know if, and I'm kind of talking here, but I don't think people realize here in Chicago. I mean, improv is almost. Would you say it's an industry in a way? I mean, it's probably multi-million-dollar industry here.
I'd say it's an industry and a religion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely something you have to. I mean, you commit to. It's a hard. I mean, when you see a Tina Fey or Amy Poehler or Steve Carell. I mean, I don't think people realize the commitment they made to at the base level, at the bottom of the pyramid, to get to that top of the pyramid. It's hard. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, not at all. I mean, you've done classes in Chicago, and you
Sure.
normally see everybody there generally thinks they're the next coming of SNL.
Mm.
And it's like you look around at the numbers, and it's like, what are the odds?
Well, and they're all talent. I mean, I'm not saying they're all talent, but I mean, there's a lot of talent. I mean, I've been doing this 40 some years in so many ways, stand up, improv, whatever. And, I've seen a lot of talented people that are amazing and, they for whatever reason don't get to the next rung of the pyramid. They don't make, I'm just not even saying to the top. I mean, they just don't move up. So
Yeah.
it is really hard, and I mean you see that. I mean you go to some. I mean you've done stand up in Chicago. I've done stand up in Chicago. You go to a stand up show there of just an open mic night, and you'll see like 20. I mean there's 25 guys or mostly guys, sometimes women. I shouldn't say. I mean guys in the non-gender manner. And you'll see. 25 and probably 20 of them have been doing this for years and are pretty good to great.
Yeah.
and then maybe five it might be their first few times. And but yeah, I mean, it is hard to just, I mean, you want stage time. I mean, and so yeah, so hats off to anybody that does it. But you've kind of been in the trenches of it as well. And let me, and I'll use this as, I'm going off, I'm not even going off some of my list here. What would your advice be to somebody starting in stand up? And I'm going to say that's question number one. And question number two is, if it's different, would you give different advice to somebody starting in improv? So that'd be one and two.
There's similarities and differences. So starting off in stand up, number one, you got to be hardened and get that callus, because you are going to bomb at times. So,
Right.
and things that work in one room, not going to go over at all in another room.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just keep working at it. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like anything, like you take what worked and, try to improve on it, take what didn't work and maybe write some new material. It's like always be writing for
Right.
stand up, always be aware. I like to stay current with the news. I like to do a lot of political kind of things.
Sure. Sure.
And I also like to tell stories. So for me, that a lot of that drew from my teaching life and sporting life.
Mhm.
But it's like, find something that you really feel passionate about, and that'll come through to your audience. And I think that helps carry you.
Right.
And it's work. I mean, man, especially Chicago, you start, like you mentioned, 25 people, and they're probably the same 25 that hop to the next mic with you if you're doing the mic
Right.
hopping thing, which can, I mean, for me, it was like, I'm in Chicago to 2, 3 in the morning, and I'm turning around, I'm back at work, at 7:30 teaching. And it was like, when I was younger, not that much trouble, but I didn't start doing it till I was in my 40s.
Right. Right.
And I mean, anymore, that's not going to happen for me,
Right.
but it's a grind. It
It
really is something you got to grind out. And like for improv is, you've got people there, and one of the ideas of improv is everybody's got everybody else's back.
Right.
So stand up, you really can't rely on people to, if you're starting to run into a problem, it's like there's really nowhere to bail you out unless the host does it. The MC might help you out here or there. I like to do a lot of crowd work when I do stand up.
Mhm.
So if I do find myself running into trouble, I'll find somebody in the crowd I think I can feed off of and work that. But improv, what I really like about improv is that stand up, you can have a structure, an idea, even if it's just bullet points you're going to talk about.
Mhm.
But improv, it's all in the moment.
Right.
And if you're doing it right, you're taking whatever anybody else puts out there and you're yes-anding it and then adding to it. That's what I like. I like the improv is the fact that you have to think so quickly and try to be entertaining at the same time.
Right. Right. Now with stand up, I think that with improv, people always joke that, oh, how do you practice improv? Well, you practice the rules. But
Right.
with stand up, the only way to practice is just to get on stage. There is no other way. You could go class, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do a stand up class with somebody who knows what they're doing and kind of help you with an idea. But there's no, just in my experience, there is no other way to learn how to do stand up other than doing it in every possible venue you can find. I don't care, if it's an open mic, if they have a mic, I don't care if it's acoustic night. If they let you go up and do 5 minutes, you should go do 5 minutes, because that's a different audience that you've never been in front of before.
Right. I would say I took the class with Jamie Campbell over at
Mhm.
Comedy Sports. And I mean, he was really helpful in talking about joke writing structure, how to create a joke, how to build off it. And he did a great job of helping us, because all of us were like pretty much new stand-ups in the class, and helping us find mics to go to,
Right.
talking to us about what to expect and that kind of stuff. So that way it was helpful. But then again, it's like, he may have been at some of the open mics and afterwards, like, throw you a couple things. Hey, you did this really well. Or, hey, here's something you might want to tweak. But like you said, you're pretty much on your own out there, and every audience is different. Every venue is different. And that's another thing I think a lot of people don't realize. It's like one of the first things I was taught was know your audience, know
Right.
the room.
Right.
I mean, I've seen people come in and do jokes that are like, that's not going to work with this audience at all.
Right. Right. And there's different things you learn. I mean, I'm not gonna, because I'll tell you, different areas are different. I mean, I'm not saying, one of the axioms I remember hearing, and I'm not saying whether it's true or not, that black audiences are more forgiving of white comedians than they are of black comedians. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, the few times that I've played in an all black audience, I've done okay. But I've never been a feature or a headliner in that situation. So, and I think that's what the person was telling me. But I'm just saying, you learn a lot of these different things from, as a comedian. Different. Everybody has an opinion about it, and nobody's wrong, and nobody's right either, because it's all about what your style is and what you do. I mean, there are some people that can only play like the college circuit.
Right.
And that's their niche, and they know it, and they play it, and they're good at it. But you throw them in, a barroom setting, because I think that's the toughest venue to perform, is a middle class or working class bar. I don't care, black, white, purple. I think because they're the more real, they're gonna see through bullshit. What do you think?
I'd agree with you on that. I mean, I've done, bars, and it's like sometimes you're just stuck in a corner. They don't even know you're there.
I think you're talking about that cigar bar in Berwyn.
And I mean, you're competing with conversation. You're competing with,
Sure.
sometimes they don't even turn off the television, and if there's a sporting event on.
Right.
And even rougher than that is bar prov. I mean,
Sure.
you're going to do
Oh
improv
yeah,
in
I
a
was just
bar.
gonna say that.
That's even rougher.
And bar prov, I mean, I don't, I'm hoping we have a wide audience with bar prov is improv, the traditional, what you'd see on Whose Line Is It Anyway, or anything like that. But in a bar setting, which I think a lot of people, may have be familiar with, but it is, it's kind of mixes the best and worst of both worlds, because you have like a tight packed audience, and when it goes well, it's really fun, but it's also can be rough insofar for a performer. I'm not talking like we're doing slam dancing or anything, but it's it's a little bit, I don't know, raunchy's the right, but they like their dick and booger jokes.
Yeah, your humor generally changes, and also it's one of the few times you get heckled when you're doing improv.
or you throw on. I think you were at one of the shows I was in where I had to throw somebody.
Yes, I remember that.
I was like, okay, you're gonna have to literally stop the show.
And I'm going to give you props. I thought you did that extremely well.
I was just like, ma'am, I'm sorry, because all she would do is just like talk and be. She was drunk, obviously, and she was having like some sort of conversation with the show and with her neighbor, that it was just so distracting that I was like, okay, and I literally had to escort somebody out of a. No, I didn't do it. I had the like what I don't even know if we had I think some audience member took her. But thank you. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things that, and this is your 13 questions, but yeah, no, you and I have had similar experiences, and it can get rough. And insofar as it's not. I think that hats off to people who make it up the comedy ladder, because they've probably had to experience all those things too. So, do you were talking a little bit about your comedy style when you did stand up. Again, people have different styles, and you're more of a political / probably some family. So, what comedy styling don't you like?
I don't know that there's any kind of that I truly don't like. I mean, I kind of like to appreciate everything, and if I can see something in it to steal, I'll steal it and put it into my act. But to me, I guess I'd call it the whiny one, where they just complain all the time about something, and it's like, I mean, my nature is like, I don't really like. I'll usually stick my face right into it if something bothers me. I'm just going to put my nose in it, and whatever comes out of it comes out of it. To whine. So I mean, I'll bitch and moan about things, but to me, it's that I want to find a way to do it that I think I can get the audience or some of the audience on a common page, and then twist it and like, well, here's how I'm going to deal with that.
Right. Do you?
No,
I was just going to say, the one kind of form I don't like. I mean, and again, this is with the caveat that I was a big Gallagher fan. I'm not a big prop comic fan. Not a big prop comic fan. because I don't know what it is. I think that Gallagher, and that's the watermelon smashing guy. If you don't know who that is, kind of YouTube
Yeah.
that, you'll find it. I mean, I think he took prop comic to the ultimate. I mean, to the zenith, and I think nobody's ever achieved. Not even Carrot Top has achieved that since. I think Gallagher was the best. I mean, when you have people coming to his shows wearing garbage bags to protect from being, when he would smash watermelons. I mean, that's funny. That's funny.
I got to see him at the Holiday Star when it was still the Holiday Star. My wife and I went to see him there, and it was he's very entertaining. And like
Oh,
you said,
yeah.
one of the few guys who can pull out. And it's, to me, doing prop comedy and that's your main thing is
Mhm.
hard.
Oh,
To
yeah.
keep that. I mean, you could throw props in here and there, but to keep it going for a 45-minute hour set, that's some work.
Right. Oh yeah, no, that's exactly why I'm not a fan of prop, because people, I think, use it and don't realize that it's hard, and they think, "Oh, I'm just gonna, bring these props out and do this thing," and then, it's not as good to me. I think that, again, Gallagher was the zenith of the prop comic, and nobody has achieved that since. So,
For me, prop comedy is like when something happens when you're doing a show.
yeah.
Like I had one where the MC tripped herself over the mic cord. And so that became a running thing for me throughout the rest of the set I did. And then the other comics picked up on it and everybody used it. And it's like, in some settings, you'll get that because there's always something, like, especially bar, something's going to go wrong somewhere out there.
Right.
And if I could find a way to work that in and get it as a prop, I'll use it.
I also think that when you're doing bar stand up, they should outlaw the margarita or anything that uses a blender. Anything
Oh,
that uses a blender. Do not let that should not be allowed at bar prov. They should just somehow unplug all of the blenders. Would you agree with me on that?
I would agree with you. And one time I was in a bar where that was happening, and I dropped a joke that just did not go over well. And I'm like, where is the blender when you need it?
Right.
That one you got to hear fully.
Yeah. They're like, blender? That's
Yeah.
funny. That is funny. That is good. That is good. See, but I was never really good at the and I think some people, and what do you think about this? This will be question number 4. Do you think people are helping stand-ups when they heckle you?
Well, I mean, depending on the stand-up. So I mean, for me, a heckle can turn into, I put my whole show in my pocket now,
Mm-hmm.
and you and I are going to go at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind hecklers if they're kind of lighthearted and funny, but I mean, you get some hecklers that are just mean, and those ones are like, those are the ones you just want to shut down quick.
Right.
But I actually, a lot of people, when I started doing improv in my first class, were stand-ups who said they were taking improv because they had trouble dealing with hecklers,
Okay.
and they wanted to be able to be more in the moment to deal with that. And
Right.
I guess part of mine is, like, as a teacher, you're always going to get some comments from kids,
Right.
and that's kind of heckling in a way.
Mhm.
And I mean, I lived off of that. I mean, that was always back and forth with me. I mean, kids would often tell me, it's like, being in your class is like being in a comedy show. And they referred to me as last word zany. It's like, we can never get the last word in with you because you always have something else to say. And so I mean, that's, for me, that's what made teaching fun. I mean, because you'd kind of get to know the kids a little bit better, see their sense of humors. And I mean, I used tons of improv, stand-up stuff in my classes when I was teaching.
Right.
And to me, it's what made it worthwhile. I mean, it what made it a lot more fun than just, I mean, I've had teachers, and I'm sure you have, would just go up there and drone on, and you've lost them quickly. And it's like, in my class, it's like, you never know when I'm coming for you.
That's
You know?
scary.
And
That's a good segue. I want to talk a little bit about your background as in physical education. First of all, what is a better punishment, laps or push-ups?
For me to do?
For you to give to your students. Are you allowed to? But I guess,
Well, and I think it's changed over the years. I don't think the trend over the last few years has been not to use physicality as a punishment, and for me, if I was going to give them, I'd prefer to give push-ups, because you can keep an eye on me a lot easier than if they're running laps and you got to watch 30 other kids, and then you got to worry about the one who's doing something to start out
Yeah,
and now doing something different. But a lot of times, if I'd give a kid push-ups, I'd do them with them. And that's just because I like doing push-ups. But
Well, yeah, I think we'd have a different style there. I would be, okay, you're going to do push-ups and you're going to do them with them and I'm going to watch while I eat this ham sandwich.
and I mean, I was the kind of kid that if I was doing something wrong, they gave me a physical punishment.
Yeah.
Thank you. I liked it. So you
Uh-huh.
got to kind of know who you're, dishing
Right.
it out to.
I was going to say something like that, kind of segueing into the net. And that was question number 5. Now we're on number 6 already. Um, do you, as a physical education teacher, do you know about 50% of the boys in your class hate shirts and skins?
You know what? We haven't been able to do shirts and skins for years.
Okay.
And I would say that that was the thing the boys still wanted to do. They're like, well, here, put on a jersey. Oh, can't we just go shirts and skins? I'm like, nope. It's, basically it wasn't a written mandate, but it was one that I got probably within the last 10 years that like, yeah, shirts and skins just not going to happen anymore.
Right.
And
Because
I mean,
again, I'm sure, like for you, you'd always be skins. You'd be like, I'll be skins. I've seen you at improv.
yeah, I don't mind taking my clothes off, but anyhow, and I don't have the body I used to have. But anyhow, it's like, and I sweat profusely, so I'll be glad to take my shirt off because I'm a heavy sweater. But yeah, it was like a quick change because I mean, let's say I switched schools after 15 years in Illinois. I came to Indiana, and it was like maybe it's just an Indiana thing. Maybe they're a little more conservative.
Mm.
But it was like the shirt and skin thing. It was like the lady PE teachers, because that PE was still separate, boys, girls, when I started here. And a lady teacher might walk through and, we're shirts and skins playing basketball or something. And they're like, I get called into the principal's office and like, did boys have their shirts off in your class? I was like, and like you would say, I said, yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
Principal's like, well, we'd really like that not to happen anymore. And I'll see what I can do. But I mean, even the last year when I was still teaching, it was guys were like, well, can we just go skins? I'm like, no, you're going to have to wear a jersey. That's, they don't care for that. And then it would be like, you'd have to make both teams wear a jersey. It couldn't just be shirts and jerseys because the ones that had jerseys would complain. The other ones didn't have a jersey. And it's like, we all get jerseys. I'm Oprah today. Hey, you get a jersey. You get a jersey. You're not even in a game. You get a jersey. You're not even dressed.
Okay. Well, see, that's a little bit interesting because, I went to an all boys Catholic school and every PE class, somebody with shirts, somebody with skins, and usually you had to go also help father with something when you were skins.
Well, the bigger question is showers.
Right. Do you ever, is that ever an issue in PE? Well, I guess, and I'm not talking co-ed issues. I'm just talking shower.
Right.
Locker room there has to be, they make sure they soap up.
Nope. It's gone. I mean, I'm sure you probably had the cattle call where everybody was in there at the same time with like 5 nozzles.
It was like 5 shower heads.
Yeah.
Hate to say that word in a shower, but you know what I'm talking about. And it would be, everybody would be in there and you'd run in and you'd run out. I mean, there's always that one dude, probably you, Ron, sitting there taking the full shower, sitting there like, doing
I sweat a lot.
Yeah, you're doing the whole thing. Me, I was one of those kids, ran in, I was in there. I think you could time it with nanoseconds, how fast I was in the shower.
Oh, I could tell you some shower room stories from when I was in high school, which are not appropriate for a PG-13
Oh, okay, yeah,
show.
please. We don't want inappropriate.
So we'll save those for another time.
We'll do.
But like now the showers are individual.
We're gonna do a 13 and 1 after dark show. Maybe that will call you back, Ron, and you can
Blue Show. Yeah, I'm all in on that. But yeah, their showers are individual now with the curtain and everything, and they don't take them. Yeah, they just spray the Axe and walk through it.
Yeah.
The shower nowadays. I even had an advanced class, and we put it first hour, so like they could come to school.
Showering?
They had already prettied up. What's that?
Advanced showering class.
Well, I had to do a lesson in it to make sure they did it properly. Yes, but would you be available to come in and demonstrate?
Yes, I would.
No, but I mean, well, that's good to hear. But even that class, I'd only have 4 or 5 guys that would shower on a regular basis. And it's like, seriously, you just got, I mean, because they would compete, they would go hard. It's like, you got the rest of the school day and you're going to, I guess,
Yikes. So, so the school district spent all that money for nothing, essentially, on the separate shower stalls.
Essentially, I guess it works when you have opposing teams using your PE locker room after game for games and stuff,
Sure.
they might use them more. But yeah, it's kind of a, yeah, it just, I don't, either way, they didn't want to shower.
Okay, because one of my questions, and so I'm going to put this kind of segue into this. Question number 7 is, how have high schools changed over the last 25 years from your perspective?
The sensitivity of everyone
Uh,
and the over intrusion of parents. I don't know if that's the right word to use there, but it's like, my God, it's like with email and Schoology and all these ways they can contact you, phone calls and everything. It's like that as a teacher, that easily becomes a third of your day is dealing with this. Well, my son or daughter said this, and I was like, half the time it's like, well, you're going to have to tell me what you're talking about because I don't recall that. Mm-hmm. And the kids are like, kids know that they can get away with a lot more, mm-hmm. and that they're probably going to have the edge over most teachers.
Right.
That, well, they're not going to say something to me or they're not going to push me on this because, my mom or dad's going to call and then they got to deal with that. And I mean, for me, it was like, well, this guy's not smart enough to worry about that, mm-hmm. that he doesn't mind, if he has to deal with our parents on a phone call. I mean, I enjoyed the fact that one principal came in and goes, well, you're going to need to call this parent. And I go, are you sure? And I go, let me make that call. That'll probably go better.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, kind of like about our society. I mean, I think, I'm not that much younger than you, if I'm younger than you at all. I mean, when I was a kid, if somebody who was an adult would catch me doing anything, and he told my dad, because I lived in a small community, and my dad, hey, I saw Frankie doing this down by the American Legion. I wouldn't get a say in getting in trouble. They wouldn't say, my dad would say, hey, he saw you over there. You know what? You're grounded for, 2 days or whatever the punishment was. I wouldn't be like, oh, he's full of crap. And, don't mind Mr. Whatever. Because, it was like, they didn't believe me. They believed an adult. And right. Now if you were to see an adult, or if you see a kid and you say something, even a random kid, and you say, hey, don't do that. You're going to, and even if the parent's there, and be like, hey, you're going to ruin those bushes. And the parent would yell at me. Mm-hmm. We've kind of evolved into society where, we can't really, try to police our own.
It's not like you have the village raising everybody anymore.
Correct. And so that's something in society in general, but I think also, like you're saying, like in high schools in general, I think that they've had to, because of whether it's lawsuits or whatever, had to, kind of evolve into this, system that we have now, which I don't think benefits the kids, to be honest with you. It just lets them get away with more because they can game the system.
Yeah, and then you get out in the real world and it doesn't really work that way. Your mom can't call your boss and complain for you, or
right,
threaten you. I mean, you get the well, my dad could beat up your dad. In my case, I said, well, send him in. Let's find out. But yeah, like you're saying, it was like if I did something that's like high school, especially.
Yeah.
By the time I left wherever classroom I did it in, whatever sport I was playing, the coach would have me already.
Right.
Chew my ass out.
Yeah.
By the time I got home, and it, although we didn't have cell phones or email or Twitter or anything, the regular phone line had already made it to my mom through right. somebody. And right. It was like, you did this is going to happen to you. You embarrassed me. And then it was like, it could even be like, they'd even say, what you did wasn't really wrong, but the adult is the one you should have,
right.
kowtowed to or whatever. And then it was like, wait till your father gets home. So it's like, I'm going to get it one more time before this right. is all over.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. And it was definitely, other adults were not questioned because,
right.
And again, we now live in a society where, every adult is like, are they a child molester? Are they, what are they really doing? So all motives are questionable, as opposed to, hey, I'm just trying to show, mm-hmm. that your kid did something that is not proper, not appropriate, but we just don't, our side doesn't do that anymore.
And
So
it's like,
yeah.
as teachers, we're taught, we get the seminars we have and um, training, and it's like the way you word things is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
How you have to watch what you say, and it can be the smallest thing, like you're saying, like just trying to, hey, you want to quit doing that, and now it has to be, would you please refrain from doing this behavior that is, obnoxious to the rest of us here, and you're infringing upon their ability to learn. So if you could work with me on that instead of, like, I just got hit with an eraser or something.
Next question. Again, we're still with high school here. Do you think high school wrestlers, because that's what you one of the things you do a lot.
Yeah, I was a wrestling coach for years and wrestled until I was 55.
Yeah. Do you think high school wrestlers should dress like WWE wrestlers?
We've done that in practices.
Nice.
I think it would be hilarious. I mean, we did walkout music for a while when I was coaching. My wrestlers would have a what, and it was like, well, that's unfair to the other teams. I'm like, have them give us their music. We'll play it. You do it for baseball. It was like, I like to break, I'd like to put the pageantry to it.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's things that I've done from time to time. And like, especially like we do a practice or we'd hold a preseason scrimmage, like, hey, get to know the team.
Mm-hmm.
And we would do stuff like that during that. And, the parents thought it was hilarious during that time. And it was like, we'd have like our 98 pounder and our heavyweight go out against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it was scripted. We knew what was going to happen, that the 98 pounder was going to throw the big guy,
Right.
And we had, which was weird for me because I've never seen wrestling cheerleaders until I was coaching in Illinois.
Yeah.
So I kind of worked them in as like Miss Elizabeth type of, characters.
That's fun.
So it was a lot of fun. I wish I think it would bring the sport up some. I mean, wrestling is such a competitive sport now. It's such a hard-nosed thing. I mean, it can be brutal even at the high school level anymore.
You mean physically brutal or just brutal mentally?
Both. I mean, the physicality of wrestling at the high school level is probably at where I would have seen like Olympic wrestling back when I was in high school.
Right.
The moves they use and what would be considered like a slam or an illegal move back when I was in school is commonplace now.
But training's changed too, like the amount of training and the time. Like I think kids specialize now.
Yes.
Year round. I'm certain that when you and I were in high school, I mean, you were seasonal. I mean, if you were a football player, sure, you worked out even off season, but you weren't. I mean, you could play other sports. Now they want you to focus on one sport.
Yeah, and I think wrestling's even more so of that than a lot of other sports. And I mean, for me, I love playing all the sports. It was like, for me in high school, it's like, why can I only play 3? I should be able to double up during a season. I can do both, but you were limited to 3. Specialization is there for almost everything now.
Right.
And wrestling, when you look at the top wrestlers, almost all of them are training year round and competing year round. It's like, like as a wrestling coach, one of your big recruiting places was football.
Right.
But now it's like, you don't cross over that much anymore, especially as wrestling was the one sport where, as I got toward the end of my career coaching, that had less kids that were not through my encouragement. Cause I was like, hey, run cross country, get in shape. Hey, play football, whatever. It was like, I coached baseball as well and volleyball. And it was boys volleyball. And it was like, I'd like to see you guys all through seasons. If you're athletic, I'd like to have you, but it's like, that got to be less and less the longer I went in my career as a wrestling coach.
Here, back to another PE question. Number 9. Will alleging menstrual cramps get female students out of most physical PE activities?
Now, see, that's the one where you want to have a female teacher with you.
Right.
Because that would, hey, let me pass this on to you. And if you get a male-orientated question, send it back to me. I mean, I literally had some girls that would, and I would tell them, I say, I teach health too, right? Your 4th period this month is probably not true, or we need to see a doctor. But it's one of those things that, like, the best you can do is send them to the nurse, and like, so like for us, for PE, if you're missing for some reason, it's now you write a report because it was like, I know a lot of schools, what we used to do is, hey, you missed PE, you got makeup. You meet me early in the morning and you're going to run so many minutes or so many laps to make up for the class you missed. And then we got the thing that it was like, well, if they're gone, they've got other classes they got to make up, which makes me feel important that, PE is not that important. So you can't have them coming in to run because they got to spend that time somewhere else. And then it was like, then you get things from parents, why they're writing a report if it's PE. And I'm going, I will be glad to meet them at 6:30 in the morning and they can run for a half hour. And they're like, report's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because parents are like, I don't want to get up and have to drive them to school.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we're gonna get off we're just gonna kind of just some more general Ron Zaney questions. Do you eat to live or live to eat?
I live to eat.
Huh?
I love food.
Okay.
And the weird part is I spent so many years as a wrestler, weightlifter, boxer, judoka, doing things where I had to make weight.
Yeah.
And, deny myself food. And it's like, I was like, I'm not making weight anymore. I don't care. I actually blew up to almost 300 pounds.
Wow.
At one point.
Wow.
And then I was like, you know what? I got to like food a little bit less.
Yeah, it's definitely food can definitely when you've deprived yourself of it, it becomes something where you overcompensate because you forget I can have that I can have a pecan pie, I just don't have to have it today. But meanwhile you're like, oh, I gotta have that. So
and the other problem is like a wrestler that you're used to, like I can drop vast amounts of weight quickly, but that's not weight loss. I drop it quickly and then as soon as I hit the scale, I put it back on.
Right.
So I mean, kind of in the back of your mind is like, oh yeah, I'm probably 20 pounds overweight right now. I could drop that in 2 days, but it's like, it's not a real weight loss.
Now let me ask you this. This is another question for you. When you're flipping through TV channels and you come across a movie that you've seen 1,000 times before, what is that? Maybe I set that up wrong. When you're flipping through TV channels and you come across a movie, give me some names of movies that you would start watching the movie because you've seen it before, but you will always watch it when you come across it while flipping through the TV. You knew I was getting there. I didn't phrase this right. So, but yeah, they're all nut gems. So yeah, I mean, for me, I'm going to give you a second to think. For me, it's like Kelly's Heroes or the Outlaw Josie Wales. I don't care where I come in, what I'm doing. If I flip through either of those two movies, Clint Eastwood movies, are on, I'm watching it. I'm watching it because I know the movie backwards and forwards, but I love those two movies. But anyway, go ahead.
I mean, me too. A Clint Eastwood movie would draw me in. I'd stop flipping. Blues Brothers. Yeah. I mean, as corny as it can be, I love it. Big Trouble in Little China. I love that movie. Cool Hand Luke, which you don't catch that often. Love that.
No, they don't. They don't show that very often, which is surprising. It's really good. Maybe it's the soap scene in the beginning with the washing the car thing. Yep. Maybe that's what it is. I do like that scene. I have to admit, I've seen softcore porn less interesting than that scene.
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that when I do pull that off in an improv scene. They're not getting the reference. Doing it. But Cool Hand Luke, the original Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, those kind of movies, I always are going to stop and check them out.
Well, because you brought up the Blues Brothers and John Belushi is one of my comedic influences. I'm going to make question number 12. Who are your comedic influences?
Oh, I love George Carlin for his wordplay, and he's pretty rapid paced when he's doing his routines. And that's something I work on, is to slow down, because I normally talk fast. And a lot of times I'll just blather and switch topics without, something will set me. I'm talking about something and it's like, oh, I Homer Simpson, like, oh, there's a shiny something over there. Let me go play with that for a while. And oh, let's go here. But so George Carlin wordplay, I love. Growing up, Red Fox, I don't know if you were familiar with Hegewisch Records.
Oh, no.
But it was like, if you went in and you knew to ask, you could get like Red Fox and some of the more blue albums. They had them under the counter.
What's Headless Records? I don't know what that is.
Hegewisch Records.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, of an Hegewisch.
Hegewisch, yeah, Hegewisch album. So it was like
it's a record.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it was like the big place to go. Just had all the bins and everything,
Okay,
and was one of the first head shops and everything as well.
sure.
But
Don't ask for the product by street name.
correct. But like Red Fox, Richard Pryor is like, I love listening to all those guys.
Right.
Um, if we're talking stand-ups primarily or comedians, I mean,
Oh, anybody. I mean,
Belushi, obviously, the
sure.
physicality he had, I love to be a physical player,
Hmm.
which is hard to do right now on Zoom. You know, you
Right.
can do it somewhat, but it distracts everybody and hard to do. Belushi, the Marx Brothers, although a lot of their stuff would not go over today, crack me up.
Right.
Love the Three Stooges again for the physicality,
Sure.
the thing they did. I love the old stuff like with Buster Keaton and those guys. And then to know that they actually did those stunts and none of that was CGI. It was
Yeah.
like, that's amazing. You know, that kind of stuff. Trying to think like right now who I like. Chappelle at times. I mean, to me, Chappelle's either a hit or a miss.
Hmm.
Um, Ike Barinholtz kind of has got a grasp on me in his last couple of
I don't. I.
sitcoms he's been
I'm.
on. He was on SNL for a while.
Okay.
He's been on Mindy Kaling. I've learned to appreciate more.
Hmm.
Um, geez, it's
I.
hard for me to say there's a comic I really don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, George Carlin. You were talking about writing. George Carlin, I think, uh, his like word choice, word placement, his style. I mean, it was like he was so consistent as a performer, but also he was. You could just tell he worked on how everything would go together
Yes.
because everything was always so consistent from the different bits that I'd listen when he was doing the same bit in a different setting, and he was always somebody who he was so technical, but you didn't notice it at all until you kind of listened to it and were really kind of analyzing it. I thought anyway. And I thought he was one of he's a really good stand up. It's funny because I go through this love hate relationship with stand up comedy. I've spent so much time, doing it myself in the early mid 80s, early 90s. And then, knew all the stand ups before that. And there have been stand ups since in the last 10 or 15 years. But, nobody to me has ever given me that. And again, regardless of whether he steals material or not, Robin Williams
Mhm.
had when he did those HBO specials, his first HBO, standing room only specials. I mean, I don't think people realize how groundbreaking that was. I mean, you can get a sense of that from the first Eddie Murphy stand up
Oh
show,
yeah, Eddie.
and how groundbreaking those were. I just don't see anybody like that. I mean, there's some really talented people out there doing stand up. The guy who does oh, I can't even think of his name now. He does stuff on Netflix, and he does Smash Mouth, I think it is the cartoon he's involved with. But he's been on Saturday Night Live as a guest host, and very talented, very good stand-up comedians. But I guess that you get to that point for me. I just kind of they always seem like copies of people that I've seen before, and I just don't see original voices as much as I'd like to. But I think that's my bias more than because I think every generation has their own like special comics, like Hicks and
Right. Yeah.
why can't the screaming guy whose name I can't believe I've forgotten. Uh,
Oh, I
yeah,
know you're talking about. I can't recall his name.
yeah, I can remember
Sam Kinison.
Sam Kinison. Those guys were just, so original for their time, but they were, I mean, you probably could say, Hicks was had followed the political, somebody like Lenny Bruce before him. And I'll be honest with you, the only the Lenny Bruce stuff I've ever seen are either the live movies that they have of his act, which were later when he was complaining about his legal issues. So I don't really know if I've ever gotten a real full understanding of his material, but it's just interesting to me that stand up is always is it seems to ebb and flow, and it's more, it's something that it's not really gone to, somewhere I'm still interested in it. So, but it's good that you're still interested in it, following it, and because you've done it and you're not like hate it. You don't get, because I think stand up can evolve into this sort of like, I've done this work, why am I not getting that? And I think that's, I don't think stand up really, you just have to do your thing.
Yeah, and it's a hustle. I mean, if you really want to make it as a stand-up, you've got to hustle. And it's like I'm not into those late nights anymore.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like you said, it takes a lot of effort to really do well in the business. And I mean, you've got to go out, you got to hustle gigs, you got to promote yourself, and it's like at my age, it's like, I like doing it now. It's like, I'll do it now and then. I mean, obviously haven't done it much since we've had the COVID stuff, but
Right.
it's like, I don't think of it as, hey, this is my second career. I'm going to make it big as a stand-up or an
Right.
improviser. It's like, there are things I enjoy doing. If something good comes out of it, great.
Right.
I'll take it, but it's not like I just enjoy doing it. I mean, it was like growing up, it was something I always wanted to do
Right.
and never really could figure out how to do it.
Right.
And then I saw that class at IUN and I was like, yeah, wanted to do this, give it a shot.
Right. Well, I
That led
think,
me to this road.
and there has to be something mentally wrong with you to want to do stand up, to go in front of a bunch of strangers and keep doing that to yourself. Like, because first time you go, I've only seen one person ever do stand up for the first time and just do well. And so there has to be something wrong with you if you go and do stand up and then bomb and then go back and do it again and again and again. And, so I think that, it takes a unique person to try to do all that. And just to,
That first time bomb can be disheartening. If it's your first time out of the gate as a bomb,
right, right.
that's rough. I mean, you're going to bomb somewhere,
Right,
or
sure.
partially.
You may not be the first. It might not be, like I said, I've only seen one person ever. I've also seen the other thing where I've seen people go and horrible, and you're like, they should get off, and then end up. I know people who, back in the 80s and 90s who I saw when they started, and they're still doing. They're actually, I don't know if they're. I think they're making a living at it. So still, so I mean, it's just some of it. Most of it is commitment. So.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And so I'm going to go with, here's our question number 13. Oh my God.
Woo!
This is what you made it. Well, we're not there yet, but we're almost there. 13. This is a general question. Name something that was popular in your teenage years. Something that comes to mind that was popular in your teenage years. Could be like a hairstyle even, or, like when I was a kid, everybody wore dock sides, without socks on. When I was a
Mullets kind of came in during my teenage years.
Okay. All right, there you go. Party in the front. I'm sorry, party in the back. See, I screwed that up. Damn it.
Business in the front, party in the back.
Yes, thank you. So did you have a mullet?
Thinking back on it, I guess I kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of the time, because like for sports, when I was in high school, we had to have our hair cut short.
Right.
It was required by the coaches. And so for the summer, I would just let it grow until I had to get it cut for football starting again. Although I played like American Legion baseball and that, they didn't really care about our hair.
Right.
And so I don't think I went out of my way to have a mullet, but I think because my hair gets wild as it gets longer.
Sure.
And I would say I would do the dumb thing. And my only reason is like, well, my hair is in my eyes. So I'd get that cut, not worry about the back. So it eventually morphed into a mullet.
Maybe you were the trendsetter.
I might have been.
Because you're not doing it because you're seeing somebody else wear it. You're doing it because it was practical. And next thing you know,
I couldn't see the back, so I didn't care.
Right. Next thing you know,
like my shoes would only polish the front because I didn't care what they thought when I left.
Right. Next thing you know, Patrick Swayze's getting the same haircut because he saw Ron Zaney in Illinois. So Ron, okay, you made it. That's 13 questions. You did it. Great job. Fantastic.
Proud of it.
But now is the hard part. This is where you get to ask me a question, and I have to answer it the best I can. See, the bar is low. I just got to try to answer this. It's not like I have to answer it well. I just have to try to answer it. It's just I just need to make a good faith effort here.
All right. So although we've known each other a few years now, and I've learned a little bit more about you today than I knew from before, and I've seen the comic side of Francis. I've touched upon the lawyer side of Francis. I've even got a brief glimpse into the parent side of Francis from time to time. I'd like to know some of the sides of Francis that are interesting that I have not come in contact with.
I think that's every side that I have. I don't know if I have any other side. I mean, let's see. So you talked on the comic side, so you know that one kind. I mean, as much as any. Oh, and while we're doing this, we're in some improv groups. We should probably try to while I'm thinking this, Ron, why don't you push the grid and TTS and stuff like that, and I'll think about this. But and I'll go through my sides here.
A grid is a show of people that are out of In Productions, which include a lot of different comedy groups. And we're on every Saturday night at 7 doing some short form based comedy on the internet, which can become exciting or not. Francis and I are both members of TTS, the Tony Stanzas. We're kind of in a holding pattern right now. It's a musical improv group. Music does not work that well over the internet. And as a group, we've had some problems lately of getting things together. I'm a member of MSU, all right, Makeshift Up, and that's short form group. Francis works with Disposable Theater, which is another short form group. And I think that's pretty much the only groups we're in. Although we did have a high school thing going where I coached a team, but COVID put a shutdown on that last year, and it'll probably
that's because you had
for this year.
It's probably because you required them to do improv in shirts and skins.
That could be. We actually had to get team shirts. I made them wear a special shirt. So back to you, though. I mean, what are some hobbies or interests of yours that I'm not aware of?
Okay, well, I thank you for the little bit of time to think about that one, because I used to collect comic books. I mean, I still have a bunch. So my wife thinks it's weird that I say used to, because I still have a ton of them left. I mean, not technically a ton, but a lot. So I used to be like a big comic book collector, knew all about superheroes, but then I became a comic book dealer. That's sort of like a drug dealer for people who, exactly. Because I would basically use that to help me buy other books, because I'd be a dealer and I'd get like first pick of stuff and could work deals out. But no, I just don't read them anymore. I don't really enjoy comic book reading anymore. So I've been slow. So right now, what I would say is my other facet is I'm an eBay power seller, because I sell my comic books on eBay. And so that is what I do in the few moments of free time that I have, is I put stuff up on eBay and I sell it, which kind of goes back to a stand-up thing. One time I used to do a stand-up bit about being an eBay power seller. And, after stand-up shows, the audience comes, sometimes they'll talk to you, and they're all like, this is a very talkative audience afterwards. They're talking to all the stand-ups, and they're talking to the other stand-ups. Oh, it was a good show, did great. The only person that would talk to me is somebody who was asking me about eBay. Not like the jokes or how funny they were, but no, how could he become an eBay power seller? So, that's the thing.
Infomercials, you got to sell yourself.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
To be an eBay power seller, I got a course.
That's what I should do as a stand-up, actually turn it into like a QVC bit. Not a bit about QVC, no, where I'm going to actually start selling stuff. Hey, after this show, you can come buy this item. It's a bunch of Ginsu knives and this, and just going up and just sell stuff for 5 minutes and then see if I can make money that way.
Speaking of that, did you see, I don't know if it was this week or last week, SNL stole your dye pillow idea.
Really? That was
they dropped the reference. They dropped the reference about making it a dye pillow, and that was it. But I thought,
really?
Francis should sue him.
That was I didn't write that. I just did the impression of Mike Lindell. Here's the mustache. And then I was doing the Mike Lindell impression, who's actually sounds more Chicago when I do it.
Right.
But he's actually from Minnesota. So they did dye pillow. That's really interesting. Was it so yeah, but that was actually written by John Giovanni, I believe.
Oh,
Which is
I
he
guess I
wrote a
just
really good
associated
sketch.
with you
It's
when I
a
saw it.
really good sketch that he wrote, actually.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, I wish I could be more like. It's so funny when I get these questions. I always at the end of the show like, oh, I wish I had a better answer for that. But I think that's a good question, and you did a great job. Ron, I'm gonna have you back on the show. I'm trying to get everybody that is interested in doing this that I know on here, and then I beg people to be on the show too. Like I begged you to be on the show, and and I know you, um, so I think you did a great job. It was a good show. We'll have you back on. 13 awesome questions. One question that you answered or asked me was awesome, and then I responded. It's good. We're good. So I don't know why I'm rehashing the show here because I'm having a little technical difficulty. There we go. All right. So anyway, hey, thanks, Ron. Thanks for playing 13 and 1. And remember, everybody, please subscribe on YouTube. Hit the subscribe, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, wherever it is. Try to find it wherever it is on this page. Thank you, Ron, for coming on the show. And I'm still having technical difficulties here with my outro music. But there it is. There it is. We got it now. Great show. Thanks, Ron. Thanks for coming. Hit the buttons. Do everything. Ron will be back. Awesome.